the day when I got arrested, they started interrogating me and asking me questions and whatnot. I did not really say anything, and of course, they were getting frustrated about it. Towards the end, they asked me just like a general courtesy that, do you have any questions? I was like, yeah, I just want to ask one question. And they were like, okay, what is it? I was like, do you happen to have a cigarette? And I wasn't trying to be witty, but like, kind of at the same time, I wanted to tell him that I'm pretty chill. I see this person's face turn from white to red. He's like, I'm going to make sure that you don't get to have a cigarette for a very, very long time. So this is how the story started. Yeah, and of course, he wasn't really happy with that initial conversation. And
Alhamdulillah. It sounds almost like something out of the movies.
I know,
the
right?
line that you give and the response that he gives.
Right. It was so sudden. It was so spontaneous. When I think about it now, like, I find it very comical. At that time, I was like, oh, hey, so you happen to have a cigarette? Like, and the way his expressions changed, the color of his face changed. Looking back, it's quite comical.
Let's go into your childhood. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? Where were you raised? Where were you born?
I come from a big family. We are 6 brothers and 1 sister. Oldest one being a sister. And normally you would think that the oldest sister would be, she would be oppressed by 6 brothers, but I wouldn't say it's the other way around. But she's the oldest one, but she had her share of control over us. So we grew up in Karachi, Pakistan, and I was there till I was 16, and moved to United States back in '99 when I was a sophomore in high school. Life in Pakistan was a very ordinary life. Like, we come from a middle class family. My dad was a lawyer, enjoyed great respect in the society, alhamdulillah.
That's an interesting fact for what's to come later.
It is so interesting. So I'll tell you, my father is a shaheed. He got assassinated in Pakistan. He had retired after he came to United States. The reason for coming to the United States, just like any other immigrant family, was for the children to receive higher education and get into different fields and prosper in different fields. Come 2013, and by that point, all of my brothers are graduated. They all have good jobs. They are well settled. I was progressing in banking industry. And at that time, what was happening in Pakistan was there was this phenomenon, which still exists, of missing persons. So what happens is, like, the government agencies will just pick you up, and you would not know. Like, there's no accountability, there's no trial. You're somewhere with the agency, and your families don't know your whereabouts. So a lot of Shias were being picked alongside of a lot of Shias being persecuted, right? And 2013, I started getting involved in trying to do something for the families of those people who went missing, right? So the project was 2-phased project. First phase was we were going to take care of the families who were suffering without the head of the household. And the other phase was to find legal help for those who are missing, who have been detained illegally, unjustly. So my father was a very successful lawyer in Pakistan. And by 2013, he's at the peak of what any man would desire. Grandkids, kids. Like, 2 of my brothers are doctors. Alhamdulillah, everybody was prospering in their respected fields. So he was what a late 60-year-old person would want from his life. He was enjoying that. And 2013, I remember that I approached my father, and I was like, and this is before I went to I told him, I was like, look, that we have this situation in Pakistan. A lot of people are unjustly detained, and the issue that we have is the lawyers that we are trying to find for them. They are either not competent but sincere, and if they are competent, they're not sincere. So I was like, we think that you're going to be a good person who can match both of these requirements of being competent and sincere. So when my father left Pakistan, he started from a very low end, and he had climbed the ladder and had become assistant attorney general of Pakistan. So like he had a name. So in 2013, I tell him, I was like, it would be good if you go back and open these files and start representing these Shias. And he's listening to me, and I was like, well, the most likely end of this journey would be martyrdom. Like, I cannot forget this conversation because in Pakistan, there was an era of early 2000s where the doctors and the lawyers, the Shia doctors and lawyers, were like systematically getting eliminated because the strategy is you take away the cream of the community, and the community goes back like 20, 30 years, right? So I told my father, and he was a quite witty guy, like, so he turned it into a joke. He was like, why don't you do this? You've got a gun. You come here and you shoot me and you say that you are a son of a shaheed. And I'm like, well, no, I do like the title of son of a shaheed, but not like that. Why don't you go? So alhamdulillah, he accepted, and he went back to Pakistan, and
at this time he's living in the US.
he's enjoying his life, right? So he is like, I'm going to take on this project. He goes back, and then this incident happened in Islamabad. This is where he was stationed at, where a procession was going on for 10th of Muharram. And there was this Salafi masjid where right in the midst of the procession, and the masjid, they started using a microphone, and they started announcing that, like they started saying Yazid radiallahu anhu, like, and then they started mocking Shias. And not only that, they started stoning the Shias who were part of the procession from the roof of that masjid. And of course, Shias responded, like, the law enforcement agents, the law enforcement was there, but nobody was doing anything anyways. They responded, in the midst of all of that, like about 100 people got arrested, detained. And my dad was already there at that time while like trying to open up files that had not been touched.
These are people that are being taken, basically these are kidnappings by the government.
Yeah.
And they are being killed, they are being held off-site with no records.
Right. So they, for the most part, without any trial, they stay in and they get tortured for a good amount of time.
And I'm sure some of them probably die in imprisonment and some.
In the prison, not so much. Not so much. The persecution happens by the Takfiri groups in Pakistan that are operating, right? Pakistani government, what they do is when they want to apply pressure on a certain group, and it does not only happen with Pakistanis. So, for example, Baloch, that's another ethnicity in Pakistan, and they're more of separatists. In order to apply pressure, what they do is like they'll, kidnap some of the Baloch. So Shias have enjoyed, I would say, their influence in Pakistan. Probably, like, I don't know of any other country where a minority, with we are in minority, like on the record it says that we are 20%, but 9th and 10th Muharram, the whole country gets shut down, like because of the procession. Arba'in, the whole country shuts down. So whatever forefathers had done, they did pretty good. So, anyways, like my father, he filed the petition, and every one of those people who were detained at that time. So there are two kinds of detention. One detention is where they're telling you where the prisoners are going. The other one is done by the agencies, the intelligence agencies. They pick you up and you don't know where they are. So this particular incident, we knew where they were, and all of them got released. At that time, what had happened was he got highlighted. His pictures came on the newspaper that he led this movement. And a couple of years down the line, he was visiting my sister and is still working with. So he had formed a network of lawyers who would be representing Shias. He was visiting my sister, and as he was getting out of the masjid after performing Maghrib and Isha prayers, the two assassins came and, like, in front of the masjid, they assassinated him. It's very ironic that what was to come later on in our life, that my father fighting for the people who were unjustly detained, and then a few years down the line, his own son was being detained unjustly, and then was so how life turns around.
Subhanallah. That's an incredible story. And then so now you are here in the U.S. You're growing up.
I'm growing up. So
you're in high school at this time. In college
high
at this
school.
time?
So I was when I moved here, like I said, I was a sophomore in high school. We moved to Boston first. Lived in Boston for a couple of years, and then I finished.
My condolences, but
I'm sorry.
My condolences.
I know those are. I often say those were the dark days of my life. So it's a beautiful city. Loved winters over there. It was beautiful. Like, again, in Pakistan, we had never seen snow. So first time you see snow, you get too excited. So I lived 2 years, and then I finished my high school. We moved again to Houston, and finished my high school in Houston. Started working at a very young age, of course, because my father had left everything, and he did not really have a professional job. And we didn't want him to work. We just wanted him to relax. So we were 6 brothers. We started working odd jobs, and did my bachelor's. So I think I was 18 when I stepped foot in banking industry. Started off as just regular teller. But as I was continuing my bachelor's, I was promoted through different ranks to a manager's position in some of the top-ranking banks. I won't name them because I don't want to endorse them. So this I worked for some big banks, right? And as management on the retail side, where we had different departments who were under my supervision, but at the same time, my degree was in political science, completely different from what I was doing for a living. But the reason I chose political science, after changing my degree several times, I started off with, trying to do, again, what any other Desi would do, medicine, but then I was like, no, that's going to be too boring. Finally, I found my niche. My niche was politics and history. So I did my degree in political science. Kind of going back in my life. Like,
right now, you're on track to have a very normal American 9-to-5 lifestyle.
Yeah, I was with weekends off. You're working on weekdays and making decent income, like from early 20s. Like when I was probably 21, 22, I was at the management position, and I was doing all right for myself, right? Although I will say this, that those who knew me from school days and from not so much college, the school days, they could not have imagined, nobody could have imagined that I would end up being in a hausa. I was not a hausa material youth. So in Pakistan also, the school that we went to. It was very, like, it is known to produce some rough and tough boys, right? Like, it was all boys school. Our schedule was from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 or 5 in the evening. Like, we wouldn't get home until like 5:30. So it was all day from 6th grade to 10th grade. We used to get into a lot of fights. And the fights, I often tell my kids that I don't remember any, like, with all the fights that I've gotten into, there was even one fight that I fought for myself. It was always because somebody was getting bullied by somebody else. So, and of course, my dad would always make fun of me about that. Like, if we were still in Pakistan, you would have joined some political parties or whatnot, because you would get into so many fights or whatnot. Anyways, coming back, I was living a normal life. Got married at a young age, and then, start just a very, normal American life. Had kids, and then finished up my master's. My master's is also in a very interesting major, right? So
Probably not in banking.
not in banking. Well, you want to hear this? So my master's, the master's I did was in Masters of Arts and Interdisciplinary Studies, with a concentration in, they introduced this program called Homeland and International Security. And then second concentration was history.
So this is Homeland Department Studies, basically? Is that what it is?
And so they introduced that after 9/11 to some of the universities. The degree in itself entails studying anti-terrorism and modern warfares or whatnot. So I studied that. You can say it's a sub-branch or more specific branch of political science. So I did my master's in that, and still working in banking industry. But yeah, I would say that was my early life.
So how in the world did you go from this path
Yeah.
to the path of the Hausa,
Yeah.
where you began to study?
I think it was 2009, 2010. And this is the thing about dunya, right? You, no matter what, even if you're achieving all of your goals, you feel that hollowness. I started feeling hollowness, I remember, in 2009. I remember this, specifically remember this one Muharram. We were very traditional Shias, like cultural Shias. For us, like, it was a big thing that, Muharram comes, the night the moon is sighted, you wear black, and you're not supposed to smile, you're not supposed to laugh, and you're like, I grew up in Pakistan and grew up in a densely Shia populated area where we would walk barefoot in Muharram, right? Like, we were not supposed to, a lot of cultural things. The root of it is beautiful. Like, you might think that, this is nowhere in Islam does it say these things, but like, I remember my grandma would not kiss us during first 10, 12 days of Muharram. Like, this is
Just out of respect for Imam Hussein and what has happened.
my Imam Hussein's children were getting killed. I'm not going to kiss my. So the thought, the mindset was beautiful, but so I remember this one Muharram in 2009, and by this time I had 2 of my kids. I have 5 kids now, alhamdulillah. The Muharram started, I couldn't cry. First, second, third, fourth. And I would be just sitting in the majlis, and I couldn't. And for me, it was like really bothersome, right? I was like, well, I don't know, my heart has become that blackened that I cannot cry for Imam Hussein. And 9th Muharram passed by, still couldn't cry. I'm like, I'm not going to go. And while going through the books, I ran into Ziyarat al-Nahiyya. And there was I remember there was the first time I ever read Ziyarat al-Nahiyya. I had always heard about it. It was the first time I read. And that melted my heart. And that, I don't know, brought this change that, okay, well, I need to leave this, whatever I'm doing, like whatever path that I have chosen, banking industry, whether it be banking industry or whatever I'm doing, I knew that something was wrong. Even
It was killing your heart. It was changing.
Right. So even at that time, I did not decide that I was going to go for Hosam. So I started listening to speeches, and I remember, and there's this one scholar, a very renowned scholar in Pakistan. I always tell him that he's like I am indebted to him. He's Mohsin, and I started listening to his speeches. And that year he was delivering his speech in Dubai, and the title was "The Help of Imam of the Time," and that changed my life. That one series changed my life. Up until that time, as I mentioned, we were cultural Shias. I was not used to. I had never even heard of a revolutionary majlis, right? What I mean by revolution is something which would make you reflect upon your life. Throughout my life, we heard majalis which dealt with the fadail of Al-Bayt, and you just say, bah, bah, like, subhanallah, subhanallah, nara Haidari, right? That's all we had heard. That's all we had heard. So for the first time, when I heard these kind of majalis and from this person, I got hooked onto his lectures, started listening, and banking industry in itself has a lot of questions to it, right? When you're dealing with loans and whatnot. And I couldn't understand. So I remember this one time, I'm still working for this bank. I went to my boss and I was like, I am giving you my 2 weeks. I'm not going to work anymore. I'm like, why? I was like, I don't want to deal with usury. And I couldn't understand. Like, I didn't know I just knew, like,
it's a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem. فَلَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. So that if you don't stop, that you get, you get started with, you can wage a war against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. I read this ayah and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I just like that, I quit. And that was, like, you can say, one of the first shades of quote unquote being an extremist. So
your boss was probably shocked.
like he was like,
you left a good career.
Yeah, he's like,
money.
you have another job. I was like, no, I don't. It's like, at least stay here till you find another job. I was like, no, I can't.
Probably from his perspective, he's saying this guy's having a mental breakdown or something. He's leaving a good job.
Right.
He has no...
And I was a very successful manager. Like, I had made a name of turning the branches around, turning the banking centers around from low performing to high performing. So he like, I wasn't that bad, to say the least. So he was like, at least wait. And I was like, no. I was like, in our religion, like, whatever, the source of income is extremely important, and I don't want to feed my children. And he's like, so the funny part was, like, he was like, we also have issues with the usury in Christianity. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, I didn't know. And he was like, yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you got to do what you got to do, don't me. So I left banking. I started listening to the stories of some of the scholars, reading into the lives of contemporary scholars like Syed Baqir Sadr and Syed Musa Sadr and Imam Khomeini himself, and just kept getting amazed, along with the lectures that I was hooked on to, and then realized that, okay, well, I need to move to Qom. But I would say that back in 2010 and 11, I had decided that I'm not going to live over here and I'm going to move to Qom. It took me another 3 years to move to Qom, and I have a little theory behind it, but inshallah.
Did you have anyone to guide you about how? Because, it's one idea to say, I want to go to the Hawza. But to make that a reality is very difficult. It's not like a university, you go on the website, you say you apply here. Yeah. Was that an easy process for you? Was it a difficult process?
Back in those days, it was, so the first challenge that I had was my family couldn't understand, like, what I was doing. Like, not my wife. My wife had been very supportive with everything that I've done. But my father was like, we came over here for you to succeed in this dunya. What are you doing? He was like, no, he didn't say it that way. He was like, you are doing such good things. We used to run a youth group over here. And he was like, you're guiding the youth. you are getting them. I was like, I could hire and fire people, so I was getting a lot of our people jobs. So he's like, you've gotten so many people jobs. Why do you want to leave this? And I was like, no, because this is not it. And I did not want to leave. I did not want to leave. Like, my father had not said no, but all the stories that we had heard about Atullah Bahajat, trying to please his father, and Imam Khamenei trying to please his father. I was like, I'm not going to leave until you're happy with my move. So that was my condition. That's why it took me 3 years after I knew that I'm going to leave. The process in itself was, we had some friends who had just moved from Houston. They moved around at the same time, 2010. And I started talking to them, and they turn in my, like, you were supposed to fill out an application. They would take it and they would turn it in, back in those days. And so I had applied from Pakistani, with Pakistani passport. Regardless, the visa would come on Pakistani passport in Pakistan, then the whole 9 years going to Pakistan. But
they couldn't even send it to you. You had to go to Pakistan to...
Yeah. So, but that was not the issue. I think that when I finally got that endorsement from my father of moving, that's when I kind of accelerated the process. Funny part is, like, I had the first time I moved to Iran was the first time I ever visited Iran. I had no idea what Iran was like. And once my admission was done, more than the process itself wasn't that hard, because we had friends who were studying, and they had applied. It was just a matter of me going. Went to Pakistan first, got my visa, and then from Pakistan went to Iran. And I had no idea how Iran was going to be like. I did not know the language, of course.
Was it a huge shock, or was it normal?
It was, I used to think that it was I used to think Qom was a very small village, like, where everybody knew each other. And
although it used to be, but not
when I moved, right? So it was definitely bigger than I thought. But the environment that I had imagined was that it matched my expectation, or exceeded my expectation. The golden years of my life in Qom, like, I would trade 100 years of peace in America with a moment of difficulty in Qom. Like, that's how I would define it. Yeah.
At some point, you're studying in the Hausa. You end up coming back, and that's when the whole situation happens for you. Could you get into that?
So I started in 2014. I would come over here, like, I wouldn't visit my family. My family was here. I wouldn't visit every year, because I wanted myself and my family to wean off from the United States. And
just the lifestyle.
There's the lifestyle, right. And so we wouldn't visit every year. In the span of 6 years, we had visited twice as a family. So what I had done in 2020, I came over here to work and do some side jobs, so that we can. That's how the Talabe would make their money, like, survive. It was a pandemic time. 2 days before my flight, right? 2 days before my flight back from Houston to Tehran.
So your mind is already in Qom.
I'm already in Qom.
You're already there.
I'm already in Qom. I am like, we are looking forward to going back. My family was still there. And they came and arrested me.
What happened exactly?
I'll walk you through the experience of that day. I think that's very important for It's a lesson. And again, whatever happened that day, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever happened that day, it's an experience of its own. So when they started, banging on the door, and I'm thinking.
So you were in your own house?
I was at a friend's house.
At a friend's house? Okay.
Yeah. I had just performed my Fajr prayers.
So this is morning time, early morning.
Right. I had told my mother that I'm going to come see her in an hour or so, and I'm getting ready to see her. They started banging on the door, and I'm thinking that probably there was my mind did not even go there, right? Like I had no idea something like this was happening or could happen. So I'm thinking there's some sort of burglary or some drunk person is here. And I could not pay attention, but as it took me a couple of minutes to realize, I was like, what is happening? Let me go and check. Muzzamil, Zaidi. And I'm like, oh.
The drunk person knows my name.
I was like, okay, so this is about me. So in the beginning, I didn't even realize it was about me, right? And as I'm walking down, it was like a townhouse. As I'm stepping down, there's this one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so merciful to me that I was able to connect at that moment with them. Normally, the way they come, and I'll tell you how they came, a little SWAT team and whatnot, I'll get in details, but what they do, the whole idea behind their commotion is to apply so much pressure in the beginning to start with a bang. What happens psychologically is your mind becomes numb and you just start saying things, whatever they want you to. There's not one thing that I would change what happened that day. I don't have any regrets. So why I say that is as I'm walking towards them, as I realize that it is about me, whatever is happening, whatever this noise is, it is about me. I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, you know what's happening in my heart, but I don't want to feel humiliated in front of them. I don't want to do that. Whatever is in my heart, keep it in my heart. Make me look strong. These are your enemies. And I'm your banda wannabe. I'm your servant wannabe, right? And I was able to have that conversation. That just this little conversation. I think, I truly believe that it helped me. It helped me a lot. And I came out. I have this I see this. One of those armored vehicles with tank and bazooka, and they had brought that. They had brought 20 some cars, SWAT team, right? This person is pointing the machine gun at me. You look at my background, I've been a clean guy, right? But you're under arrest. And I was so composed, and something that they even mentioned in my bail hearing, that he was very composed. And I again reflect on that day. I'm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me act like I was a professional, I was completely unfazed with their quote unquote might. And it wasn't because of me. I'm not even being humble. I'm telling you as it is, as how I feel. I don't think it was one thing is when you're, so for example, if you were to ask me if somebody comes to pick me up right now, right? I have already, thought about this. I had never thought about this moment in my life. I had thought about, what am I going to do if my father dies? Or what am I going to do if my mother dies? What am I going to do if my wife dies, God forbid, if my children? I had, you prepare your mind for certain situations. I had never prepared myself for this situation.
And why would you?
Why would I, right? So whatever happened that day, it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So they got in the car, and at that moment, this, again, guidance came that I'm not even going to give them enough importance to ask them, what is it about? I did not ask them. Just sat in the car. It took me, and I had them tell me what was it about or whatever. But I'm I cannot thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough that He kept reminding me that, who do we follow? I was doing a lot of tawassul with Imam Qadim that day. I cannot forget. I'm like, Imam Qadim, you have gone through this. Don't let me break. Just don't let me break. I don't want to break. I don't know what's going to happen. Don't let me break. I don't want to break in front of them. So alhamdulillah, it was that day. Then of course they took me to the headquarters and the whole 9 yards. Took me to the first. They took me to downtown prison, and that Zuhur Asar prayers I cannot forget. Like I'm in shackles, and like I could not even raise my hand all the way up for Allahu Akbar. I'm like Allah, like I could not move my hands more. It was all the way. I was shackled from my waist, from my feet. The Zuhur and Asr prayers was one of the beautiful prayers that I read.
So they're essentially treating you like some huge, dangerous criminal.
Yeah. So, and that's where their lies get exposed from. I would say my story, they would say their story. But just from their story, if you look at the press release that they had the day of the arrest versus the press release that they had after the case was concluded, world apart, right? Because they didn't, alhamdulillah, they didn't get to what they wanted because there was no grounds for it.
What were the charges? What were they saying that you had done?
They charged me with several different things, starting from they said that I was an unregistered foreign agent working for Imam Khamenei, working for the government of Iran. And this is the funny part, because I wonder at times, like I honestly wonder that they're either that stupid, like I'm not even being, a hater, where one party calls other party names, but I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Like either they're really stupid or they do it on purpose to mess people up, right? I don't think that anybody can be that stupid. So if the possibility of letter is more. What do I mean? This charge in itself that he is a unregistered foreign agent. You go and look at my speeches, and you look at my, past. I have been the strongest vocal supporter of Ulat al-Faqih, of the government of Iran. Say if I was an agent, why would I highlight myself? Like, who does that? What kind of agent does that? If I am an agent, I would be making sure that my ties to the government are unknown. Like they should not be exposed, let alone me exposing myself, right? So I had been throughout my speeches, even before and after, like I'm a strong supporter, a strong defender of the only Shia republic that we have, and they said, so one of the charges was unregistered foreign agent.
By the way, the irony is that APAC is considered not to be.
Yeah, so there we go.
So they don't.
There we go. The double standards are all over the place when it comes to APAC. And I am glad that people are seeing it now. Even the right wing, they are seeing it now, that how the loyalty of the Zionist entity is a lot more important in American politics than the loyalty to America, right? That was one charge. Second charge was money laundering. I'm like, money laundering? That was also very ridiculous, because I was like, money laundering is when you are when your source of income is illegal and you put it in bank to make it legal, right? Whereas the charges are that you took money and took it to other country. There was no discussion of bank. So how's it money laundering, right? Like it seemed like they were just throwing things out there. Another charge was violation of international economic sanctions.
The sanctions on Iran or
Iran, sanctions on Iran. And that was the third charge. And then there was conspiracy to do money laundering, and then a conspiracy to violate the charge, and a conspiracy to be to being working as an agent. So not only there's a charge, but then the conspiracy is another charge. Just so that they can make me look like a boogeyman. They were pretty successful in that, unfortunately, because of the community's reaction. But that's.
So here you're facing just multiple. It's not even one charge; it's multiple charges.
Yeah.
The core of it was essentially khums. Is that what we could say? That it was the payment of khums, or was it something else?
I still don't know. And that's extremely important for people to know.
Because I remember at the time when this came out, the fear and the effect that it has is that this Syed has been arrested for basically people were giving him khums, and then he was sending it to the Maraja. He was sending it to the scholars.
Right. So
this was the idea that a lot of people had.
So that's that was the biggest misconception. And I before I get into it, I wish that it's a very clear command in Quran that when you hear a news from a fasiq, fatabayyanu, like verify it. And the known fasiq were giving their narrative in my bond hearing that, he did this, he did that, whatnot. And our people, without even bothering to ask me, like they went with the narrative that the government pushed. And the argument that you would hear, and it just boggles your mind. You're like, they would say that, why would government lie? Like literally, this is what I've heard. And I find it so comical. I'm like, really? Why would they lie? Like, that is exactly what they do. Like, they're champions at it. Like, they're like, why would they lie like that? And I'm not even, these are the words of our believers, right? Like,
I think that hurts more than even their other side.
I'll tell you this, Syed, that what they did is expected out of them. This is what they do. They mess people up. They mess families up. That's what they're doing at the borders right now. That's what they're doing with this whole ICE campaign that they have going on right now. That's how the foundation of this country has been built, by messing families up, by messing communities up, by psychologically enslaving them, by bringing slaves on the back of the slaves that were smuggled from Africa. That's what they do. So what they did, that did not hurt heart. Yeah, we went through psychological turmoil, but that did not hurt. Honestly, that was expected out of them. What was not expected was how the believers would react. And that hurts. That the least you could do is ask, you got all of us in trouble. You are not in jail. You're not in house arrest. I'm the one who went to jail. So what do you mean I got all of you all in trouble because you got questioned?
SubhanAllah, this reminds me, just very quick, is the Malcolm X. He has the house Negro.
Yeah.
And he has the field Negro.
Yes.
This, is bringing memories of his speeches and his books.
Right.
How he explains how people see themselves, and we have it good here.
Right.
Don't mess it up.
Right. So this is exactly, these were the arguments, right? We were fine, and now we are under the watch, under the supervision, and I'm like, this is nothing. And even if you were asking, like, what have I done? Tell me, what have I done? The whole thing started off with this. We are in 2018, and starting from 2015, the Saudi coalition, along with the blessing of their masters, United States and Zionists, they started bombing Yemen back to the Stone Age. Yeah. And why were they doing that? Just so that they can keep or they can instill their puppet government, and they can keep their puppet government of Mansour al-Hadi. What's his name? I think Hadi was there. I think Mansour al-Hadi or something like that. And they had, so if you look at Yemen's, the map of Yemen, 1/3 of Yemen in terms of area is populated by 2/3 of Yemeni. And they are in the area where Ansarullah had their control. 1/3 of Yemeni population is populated in 2/3 of Yemen in terms of the space territory. So things had gotten to a point that, according to their report, the UN's report, and you go and check, out of the population of, I remember, 26, 27 million, 10 million people were on the poverty line. People were eating boiled leaves, right? I was in Qom, and this whole thing was going on. I remember that I started having restless nights. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And Yemen is the Karbala of today. Yeah. And I decided that, along with some friends, that we are going to raise funds for Yemen. And we are going to provide them with ration or whatever we can.
And this is simply food.
Simply food. We have videos of it, Syed, right? And at that time, I remember you could support a family of 4 for the whole month for $38. We started collecting donations, not just homes, donations, right? We got permission from Ayatollah Araki to collect homes 100% to provide it to Yemenis, right? From both Ayatollah Sistani and Rahbar. We started collecting donations. Though we had received the Ijaza was more so the endorsement of our campaign. Because most of the donations that we were receiving were just basic donations. It wasn't khums. Yeah, it wasn't even khums. Some of our friends in Islamic Pulse, they released a video about our campaign and started getting calls from different people. And that's what really hit them. We did not want to use the Red Cross. We did not want to use these organizations who are known as traitors. All these international bodies, even if they're not traitors, do they have admin fee? Yes, they do.
Very high.
Very high fees, right? We wanted every penny to go to Yemenis.
Many people, by the way, they don't know this. They think that when you donate money to the Red Cross, 100% goes to the poor. They have a whole system, and it's, it reminds me more of a scam than anything else. Yes.
At that time, we had come across with people and some of the humanitarian organizations who were operating in Yemen. We did come across. We were working with Ansarullah. At that time, they were not designated terrorist organization, so there was absolutely nothing wrong with working with them because they were the people on the ground, and they still are. But so we provided them with funds that we collected. So no funds were given to the Maraji office. We had received 100% Ijaza, and this is a misconception. And what they did was they were like, okay, well, the issue was, and this is something that really, I guess, got us, and no general citizen would have known about this particular part. The issue was not to send funds to Yemen. The issue was not to collect funds.
That was 100% legal.
That was 100% legal. The issue was not to collect funds, right? The issue was The charge was to take funds from, transporting funds from Iran to Yemen, even if no funds are left in Iran, and 100% of the funds are going to Yemen.
So it's being collected in the U.S.
Right.
It's being sent to another country for logistic reasons, and then from there it's going to Yemen.
Right. So I'm going to Iran, right? Like, we do not have any banking relationship with Iran. So the only option that you have is to carry funds. People were.
So you're not even sending it to Iran. You're simply carrying it.
You're carrying.
You're traveling with it,
right?
And then from there you're going to Yemen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you're sending it to Yemen.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's how it.
That was the charge, essentially.
That was the
incredible.
That was the issue, and I'll tell you that up until the end, both government and the judge, they knew that the funds were only for humanitarian purpose. Then, they could not prove otherwise. And
if they had even a little bit of evidence, they would have probably put more charges.
Right.
Other charges.
Right. So it was never proven, because the whole idea was for Yemen, right? And those who know, and I do believe that they do, the government also knows that how big of a responsibility it is. If even we mess up by a penny, the accountability on the Day of Judgment, it's not something that we can bear. Like it's not even worth anything, right? And I do believe that they know about this. I do believe that they know that how we look at our religious duties, but just want to create a stir.
Why do you think they did this? Because, if you think about the U.S. government, they have many things that they could be doing. Why is it that specifically, and the Shia community, it's not the largest community in the United States. Even the Muslims are a pretty small community, right? Now, the Shias are a minority amongst the minority. Why do you think they particularly went after you and particularly tried to try this case?
I think it was a political maneuver, right? A lot of things happen in geopolitics where you're just doing things to have an upper edge on your rival, right? Why did they come after me in particular? I don't think I am important enough for them to keep an eye on. I wasn't important enough at that time, and I'm not being humble right now. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense. But what they wanted to do was to make an example out of someone and see the community's reaction, right? And this is very important, Syed. I'll take you a few events back. What had happened before my arrest? I think about a year or two before my arrest, what they had done was they had arrested Sister Marzia Hashimi, right? And her being a journalist and a very open critique of United States government. And they wanted to see their reaction. Unfortunately, with the numbers that we have, only few raised their voice in our support. And few came out. Then the sanctions were placed on Rabbar. Yeah. Like, even the enemies cannot prove or cannot say that this person enjoys a very luxurious life or has got crazy amount of wealth. Like, they have never even accused him of that, because it's so far from reality. Do they not know that Rabbar does not have any wealth? Right? They placing the sanctions on him again, when it's political maneuver, at the same time to see, what the community is going to do. And then they arrested me, and I think it was more so using me as a scapegoat to to give a message to the community at large that we control, and this is something not only my thought process, I think my lawyers also told me the same thing. And, my lawyers were not Shias, right? So they did not have this bias. And white individual was telling me that, okay, if you were even convicted of being an IRA member, like you wouldn't have gone through. You would have been walking free. And I'll tell you like what my arrest entailed. In just
IRA meaning the Irish Republican Army, which was a known terrorist group.
Right. Like these are his words. Like if you were an IRA member, you wouldn't have gone through what you have gone through now. Right. I think it was more so to send the message loud and clear that anyone who even attempts to send money overseas, and at the same time, if you are a critique of American government, right? If you are calling out American government like this, we are going to do this to you. They wanted to instill fear in our community, right?
It has a chilling effect.
It does, right?
From what I remember is that now people are even questioning, should we pay khums? Right? Because khums in general, I mean, it goes to the Maraja. So whether it goes to Ayatollah Sistani, Iraq, goes to Ayatollah Khamenei in Iran, this is something where that is the route that it sometimes takes. So then the question for the Shias is that, okay, is it even an obligation to pay this? Maybe I shouldn't even pay my khums. Just leave it be. And be quiet also. Don't say anything and be quiet.
I'll quote one of my friends, and he was like, the problem is not with khums. And they'll even give you an office in White House to have a Homs office, as long as Homs is over here, right? That's the issue. And yes, you're right. I mean, the questions came afterwards. Oh, like it's an attack on Homs, and of course we wanted to make sure that there's no precedence that is set with my case, at least, that we would not be allowed to give Homs. Yes, I mean. Yeah, I do not recommend anyone, especially after my case. Like, you spend money over here. Spend money when there are a lot of projects that you can give your home, where you can give homes. Unfortunately, I cannot forget this one incident, Syed. The mindset that we have is extremely important in these things. There was this Zoom conference with an OFAC lawyer with some ulama and some activists from all over the country after my arrest, and talking about my arrest, talking about my case and whatnot. The question came of Homs, and this one very esteemed scholar, right? And he mentioned that the sanctions on rapper, the rapper's follower can give Homs to Ayatollah Sistani. Like, yeah. And I'm thinking at that moment, yes, we can. Yeah, rocket science. Thank you very much for the information. But is that what we want? Why? Like, they're pushing you against the wall and you keep getting pushed. You don't show any resistance. It's not even about, like, who am I a muqallid of? Why can I not perform my religious duty? Or say that the First Amendment is just nothing but a sham. The mindset was extremely important. The mindset is extremely important. When all of these things happened, so again, it wasn't about Homs again. The case was not about Homs. The case was, why did I take money, whether Homs or not, to Iran so that it could be delivered to Yemen?
So I think both are, from their view, they're trying to stop both. One, they don't want money to be going to certain countries.
Right.
So whether it's Iran, whether it's Yemen. Right. So if they're supporting a war against Yemen, they obviously don't want humanitarian.
Right. Yeah. They were, and my reading of the situation is they were extremely mad about that. That was the reason. Look,
were they afraid, by the way, that if people see that you are doing this, then they will also follow, right? Because this is the idea that you see someone doing something, you say, okay, it's okay. So then other people begin to follow.
Right. One thing that you cannot mess with them, and I'll tell you the funny part, who is the God, who is their God, right? If I was to ask you, like, and then tell me, like, what do you think? The punishment for violating the economic sanctions would be higher, or the punishment of working as a foreign agent of your rival.
I would imagine the money would be more. They're more. They seem to be more worried about the money. Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm working. If, say, for example, if someone is an agent, that's like,
when you say agent, it's literally you are doing secret, like this is like a secret agent. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
James Bond.
James Bond stuff, right? So you would think that, okay, well, I don't want any of. If I'm like, say, if I'm American, like I would be more concerned about the agent.
Right.
But the maximum punishment for unregistered agent is 10 years. Maximum punishment for violation of international economic sanctions is 20 years.
Wow.
So that's what you know, that the God is money. Like you don't mess with their money. And you're right. So this is where it goes. This is what it boils down to. They do not want. They did not want money to be sent over there, and they were extremely upset about it. It wasn't about money went through Iran. In reality, I believe 100% that they were upset that even after the siege that was there, in that part where Yemen was controlled by Ansarullah, the aid was able to get there, and they were upset about it. They were genuinely upset about it. But how dare someone? Was it illegal? No, it was not illegal. Okay, well, the part that was illegal was Iran's part, but they would not have cared if from Iran the money would have gone to the part that they were controlling. But because from Iran the money went to the part that was not controlled by them, that's what upset them.
And this is also another case, is that much of the aid that goes to Yemen, there's two parts of Yemen, right? So there's the rebel and there's the Houthi, right? So it seems like most of the aid goes to the other parts.
Yes,
right?
that was the issue.
Here's a question: how many years were you facing at the beginning of the case when they put the charges down on the table? How many years was the maximum that you were facing in jail?
So, like I said, for economic violation, the maximum sentence cannot be more than 20 years. So 20 years is.
So this is worse than murder. If
like
if someone kills a person, their person may be facing right around the same or even less sometimes.
Right.
Depending on the circumstances.
Right. So it was 20 years, the maximum.
That was for one of the charges.
Yeah. So others. So for money laundering and for agent, like I said, it was 10 years. So yeah, it was. And that's what was.
This could have been a life sentence for you. It had the potential. How did the community? How did they react to you?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, and again, it was a wake-up call for me, right? I mean, they took me to jail. I was in jail for 2 weeks, and we had our bond hearing that was watched by maximum people who could join via Zoom, and that is an experience in itself. Let me actually talk about that first. So in the beginning, you feel like all these people are joining Zoom and they are all for it. They're with you, right? Up until the liars start talking.
People from within the community.
I'm talking about that FBI agent who was just.
So you had people that were supporters at the bond hearing. You also had people that were against.
In the beginning, everybody was a supporter. In the beginning, up until they heard the bond hearing, they were like, okay, yes, we are going to support him. The community, in the beginning when the bond hearing was going on, we had about, the maximum number of people you can have on a Zoom call is 500. So throughout the bond hearing in itself was 3 hours long, more than 3 hours long. And throughout this time, we had 500, which was a maximum capacity of participants. But then what happened, and when I'm in jail, I'm thinking that, after I come back, I was living in this utopian world, right? Thinking that, we believe in Imam Hussein, we believe in, resistance, we believe in Qiyam, and supporting supporting the oppressed. What they had done, Syed, was one of my bonds condition, and this is where their oppressive strategies become more evident. They said that I am not allowed to stay with any of my siblings. So one of the conditions was he cannot stay with any of his siblings.
Why would they ask that? What was the reason behind it?
Oh, because he used his siblings as well to transfer money to Yemen. They are quote unquote party of interest. They were like, he cannot stay with any of his siblings. Then we talked about any of my brothers. And they're like, so what about my sister? And they're like, he cannot stay over there because she's on green card. So they kept making it hard that. So now what they had done, and this was planned when I was arrested. One of the things this FBI agent told me who was interrogating me, he was like, we'll make sure that you're isolated with your community. Even your own people would not want to come close to you. His words, verbatim, right? And was trying to scare me or whatnot. So the only choice, and I cannot ever pay this person back, because this was a time after all the lies that they had said about me during the bond hearing, that I'm like some kind of a boogeyman, right? They had painted my picture in a way that people with weak faith, right, would have not just one arm distance, like a city distance from, like they knew that nobody would want to own me. Nobody would want me to put me in their house.
So the idea is now they're going to release you.
Yeah, but I
you're saying, who are you going to be released to?
Right. Your family, like you're not allowed to go to your family. And they had list of people who I could not contact, that I did not contact for till the time my case was resolved. And some of them were like, the list even didn't make sense, because some of them I barely talked with. Some of them were really close to me. In the beginning, they had put my wife on the no contact list. Like, seriously. We were like, are you out of your mind? My wife? Like, I cannot be in touch with my wife. But we fought it off and we had them remove. At that point, where a lot of people said no to the idea of housing me, this one friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, like what he did, I would always tell him, I'm like, I don't know why you did this, because he, again, just from the apparent of the scenario, this one person who claims to be a Shia of Imam Ali, right? Again, being a Shia is a whole other level. Claims to be a Shia of Imam Ali is being attacked by the Yazid of the time, and we are living in Sham. Like, that's the scenario, right? And you say that I'm going to give him asylum into my house. I'm going to give him. And he did that. So yeah, and it happened to be like Allah's plan countered them in a way that he said yes to me. And this person lived the very next street of my brother. And all of my brothers live in the same vicinity. So they wanted me to be away from my brothers. And of course, my brothers, like the person who did agree to keep me there in his house was someone who was living right next to my brother. So alhamdulillah, I stayed with him. And the way it impacted my life, like, of course, he had given us the open door. He was like, you come, your family comes over here now. But at the same time, you get this sense of responsibility. You don't want to burden anyone. So what would happen is, like, my kids would come to me in the morning, and then, my wife would come, and then after a while they would go back. So we were kind of living like, though we are married, we were living a divorced life, right? Like, well, the kids coming to me first, and then they are going to the house where my wife was staying. I did not want to move my whole family to his house. The poor guy's already giving me a place to stay. I did not. I didn't want to take him for granted. Though he insisted many times that have your family move over here, but at the same time there was this sort of realization I didn't want to burden his family. He did this while, the cars would be standing outside, right? Like,
So you have FBI or government cars that are outside.
they were outside. If we would go out, so the first time I ever went out was, I think, I got the permission to go to the masjid to attend some majalis of Abu Abdullah. And it was after more than a month, or after a couple of months. And so my friend is taking me. And
This is the first time that you're seeing the community after this whole
Right. And I had this ankle monitor that stayed with me for 4 years. It had become part of my body. So I, as soon as we started going towards the masjid, driving towards the masjid, I see this car, and I'm like, look, there's someone following us. And he was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. I was like, turn around. So the car is like chasing us, right? And they went all the way to masjid, just parked, across of masjid to keep an eye on who I was meeting or whatnot. And inside came out, and then they came back and dropped us off, like they were escorting us. So
You just got on a ride with them.
I know, right? There was this one time, because I had gotten the permission for 5 days. One of the days, like they would wait for me to get out. So I was like, today we're not gonna go. Let them wait. I didn't go on purpose, just to make them keep wondering. But when I went to the community, there was this the stairs. Like, I was thinking in my mind, I'm thinking that, but by that time I had realized, because 2 months had already passed, and normally, like, you would expect your friends and families to come and visit you, but no one did.
So no one is visiting you.
No one is visiting me. There was this one person who came 2 days after and he's one of the seminarians. He came, and the first thing he told me, and I cannot forget this, like, I told you so. I told you so. Like, implying that this is what you get for being vocal against American government. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm the punching bag now, so anyone and everyone.
Regardless, even if it was the case, that's not a.
This is not the time, yes, right? Yes. Like, let's say I made a mistake, right? Let's say that I was wrong. Let's say that I did something horrible, which was, again, feeding the people of Yemen. Let's say it was such a horrible thing to do. Like, when one of your guys is down, you don't just start kicking him. You're supposed to pick him up.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what I felt like. Syed, I was denied. Like, the next day that I came, and I'll say it, the day I came out of the jail, the next day, the following day, I knew that they wanted me to get scared. And this thought came to me, and I was like, I want to do what Imam wants me to do, but I cannot ever claim that, Imam exactly wants me to do this. But I know what his enemies want me to do, and I'm going to do opposite of that. One of the ways to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to do kufr of taghut. They wanted me to be silenced. They wanted me to retreat from my stances. And I wasn't going to do that. They wanted me to just be isolated. I wasn't going to do that. So next day I come out of jail, I'm like super excited. I'm like, all right, alhamdulillah, I can count myself amongst the usra. And this hurts. For Sunday school, and what is the condition of Sunday schools are in the United States. People who do not even have proper talaffuz of salah, they are teaching in Sunday schools. People who were teaching salah, who were in Sunday school, there were some people who came to me and corrected their pronunciation of salah. But I was not allowed to teach at Sunday school. And this hurts. This hurts. Like, You're not putting me on payroll if your problem is putting me on the payroll, because I'm working at that time. I was working for a state college. If I'm working for a state college,
And they had no issues with you working there.
like, you're telling me that you as a private entity cannot hire me, or cannot, well, forget about hiring me, put me as a volunteer for Sunday school, Syed. And more than the community, I feel like there's a lesson to be learned from the Hawas, from the elites. You don't abandon your usra. You don't abandon your shuhada. You don't do that. In 4 or 5 years, the least they could have done, and a lot of things are symbolic, Sayyid. People are looking at the leadership. People are looking at it, whether it's a local leadership or at state level or national level. Like, we've got some platforms of ulama. Not once. This was a case that had really stirred the community in Shia community in the United States, right? Like, everybody was confused as to what is happening, what just happened. Not just Houston, everyone in the United States, right? If not once they sent any messages for dua, like, what are you doing? If you're just saying that, pray for these brothers who got arrested, they get released soon. Or if you ask Mu'mineen to keep these prisoners in your dua, it's not that we had the prayers of our mothers, right? There were a lot of people who were praying. It's symbolic that you are owning us. You're owning us. And this is what got to the community as well. Like, when it was like, okay, well, if the leadership is not owning it. And I spoke to some of the individuals and I told them, I was like, if you were to come, and it's not like everybody, majority were like this, beautiful guy. The first time he sees me, he's like, I'm walking to his majlis and he's like having everyone recite salawat. And as soon as he gets done with his majlis, he comes and hugs me and starts crying. I would request people to recite majlis at my house, yeah. And it's not like they have done something to me and which hurts. It's like I'm saying, I told this to some of the people that you're not coming to me, come to this other brother of mine who was also going through the same thing. Was the first guy who said that I'm going to read majlis at your house. He read majlis. He got calls, said, why did you read majlis at his house? And this hurts. Forget about on personal level. Let me tell you how the system works. I'll tell you, towards our sentencing, one of the things that we were asked to do was to have people write letters for our character. And throughout this, 5 years, I was running some book clubs and had some few students and people from distant families and friends or whatnot. They wrote letters, and alhamdulillah, a good amount of letters came from all over the world. And the judge read those letters, and judge referenced to those letters that you have done such good work, this and that, whatnot. One of the things that the lawyers had told us, that we need to fill up the court with people, with your supporters, because it's going to make it hard for the judge to look in the eyes of your loved ones and give you the sentence to go to jail. These things matter. As a community, you abandon someone, you thinking that you're going to go get under the radar. You're just showing weakness, and you're giving them more opportunity to oppress you. And this is what they did. This is what the community did. So if we were to go back, and God forbid something like this happens like this in future, my humble request to everyone would be, do not abandon the people who are getting oppressed, because they're going to come after you. You think that if you don't get involved, nothing is going to happen.
It's not going to save them.
It's not going to save you. It's not going to save you. We have had cases afterwards where they picked up one of the guys from Dallas, Daniel Imani. Very, wasn't even an activist. He was a straight guy, good. You would define his lifestyle as, yes, his family is very revolutionary. He himself is very revolutionary, alhamdulillah. But, minding his own business, going to masjid, working in a corporate job. And, so don't think that they're not going to come after you.
Yes. By the way, there's one community in particular that I've noticed whenever they have these issues, they, regardless of what the person has done, who the person is, how much association even they have with the community, they band together. Yeah, and that is a sign of their strength when you look at them as a very strong community. So this is one example. When I look at how they work, anything that happens, they tend to band around their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is how you create pressure. This is how you lobby, right? The policies that they had against us, and this is probably the last part that I want to talk about. Syed, they, amongst, what they were trying to, and this is how you see, that these people, you cannot rely on the system. This system was founded on oppression. They had taken my passports. Okay, fine, I committed the crime. They had taken my wife's passport and my children's passport. Okay, you wanna hold on to something that I don't run away. Okay, even that part, understandable. Even my 2-year-old daughter, right? Understandable. They had taken the passport. They had confiscated the passport of my brothers. Why?
Yeah.
Just put yourself, just replace my name and replace me with, say, John, right?
We'll call you John Smith.
John Smith.
Yes.
If John Smith does something, gets arrested, when and where have they taken the passports of his family? Unheard of. Unheard of. Not only that, my mother, who may Allah give her a long life, she was in her 70s. She's close to 80 now. They confiscated her passport. So every time we would have to go for ziyarah, we would have to request a motion for our lawyers to first consult with the government and for government to give permission. Not to me, to my family I'm talking about, my brothers.
Incredible.
So, alhamdulillah, they tried their level best to break our spirits. Like I said, one thing that I had to, what made sense to me was, I'm not going to do what they want me to do. They want me to be silent, so I'm not going to be silent. They want me to stop talking about politics. I'm not going to just stop talking about politics. They want me to stop criticizing the Zionist entity. Even if I had filters before this arrest, rest assured, alhamdulillah, after this arrest, all those filters were gone. So alhamdulillah, I cannot thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough for, and then I give a lot of credit, of course, the teachings of our Al-Bayt, or of our Aimma alayhim salam, is alive. They're eternal. But at times you want to see the practical implications. And I cannot thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having us live in this era where we have examples. Syed, when I went to jail, and when people would tell me that, oh, you are going through this, oh, you're going through a test, the first person I thought about when I was in jail was Sheikh Zaki. It's one thing that you're getting oppressed. It takes a lot of mental strength to see people, the oppressors, kicking your wife, hitting your wife, shooting your wife, killing your children. I'm like, this is nothing. When people would say that, you're going through this test, I'm like, if Sheikh Zakzaki is going through test, then I cannot say I'm going through the test,
What you're saying, it reminds me of something that every year during the month of Muharram, we sit and we go over the story of what happens to the Imam. And there's a part of that story that when you were mentioning your own story, it reminded me of that. And that was the moment where Muslim ibn Aqil, right? He's in the masjid, he's praying. All of that propaganda has been created. There's this environment in the city. And as he is praying and he finishes his prayer and he looks back, he realizes that everyone has abandoned. And we go over that story every year, multiple times. We narrate it, we cry over it, not realizing that there are instances where examples of this happen again and again and again. And so it's almost as if Allah is giving us an opportunity in these kinds of situations that if this was to happen, not for Muslim ibn Aqil, not for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, for someone in your own community, on a micro level, no one is going to kill you, no one is going to do anything to you, but yes, there is some level of risk. How do you respond? And I think people, they don't realize that they are being tested with that exact same situation before the coming of their Imam, right? Because when the Imam comes, alayhi salam, that is going to be the real test. It's going to be the real pressure. So these are opportunities. Many times we don't see it. We simply are taken by the fear of that moment. I don't want to risk. And we essentially fail that test. We failed that test.
We often hear about the story of Prophet Ibrahim. And, there is this thing that there was a bird or someone who was, throwing a little bit of water or whatnot. The test, somebody said that, when Ibrahim was being thrown in the fire, it wasn't Ibrahim who was being tested. So people who were watching him, they were being tested. At times we feel like the test is for the person who is going through the toughest of the situations. But, when we look back, we are, and then I've felt myself a lot of times that in global situations, I feel like there are many times that we see Karbala happening in front of us and we let it go.
Yes.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps giving us the opportunity over and over again. We keep letting it go. We keep letting it go. So, yeah.
I wanted to end it with one final point. And one of the interesting things is that you seem to have a very strong resiliency. And so most people, if something like this was to happen, they would be broken. They would be in a corner of the room, fetal position, right? They would be finished. What do you think is the main influence? I know there's probably many different influences, but what is the main influence that you feel has allowed you to have that resiliency?
Many times throughout this process, I would ask myself this one question, that what would Imam Hussein do in this particular moment? And then the second thing that I would ask, what would Imam Khamenei would want to do in this situation? These were the shuhada, and I would look at shuhada and their lives. I cannot, I used to wonder, Syed, that if this thing would have happened to me 50 years ago, or if I was alive, or to someone 50, 70 years ago, what would be their source of inspiration? Yes, we've got imams, but that's 13 centuries ago. I cannot thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough for having us live in the era of shuhada, that we have got examples of these great heroes, or great contemporary heroes, and the defenders of shrines, the shuhada of Iran-Iraq war, the shuhada of the recent times, whether it be Mohsen Hojaji or all these people. And that was the biggest motivation for me.
Maybe those stories would come to you at different positions and places.
Absolutely. Oh, tell me, yeah, absolutely. When I was walking towards my bond hearing, right, and even with sentencing, I'll tell you, when I was walking towards the bond hearing, I don't know, like it for some reason I saw Imam Khomeini's face and what Imam Khomeini stood for. Right at that moment, and again, these things, again, you don't, since you have not thought about them in the past, so you know it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I decided that, whatever is going to happen, if I don't get the bond, I'm not going to have a sad expression. And if I do get the bond, I will not show my joy, because He is not the judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the judge. He is no one to grant me bail. It's going to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's going to grant me bail. And I thought about Imam Khomeini when, how he was when Shah would come. And, the famous story that everybody stood up and he stood, he stayed down, he kept sitting and he was the burden of Ummah would not let me get up. Similarly, when just this idea of the teaching of Imam Khomeini and Imam Khamenei, it has taught us. When I was going for the sentencing and some of the friends were there to fill the court, I told them, I was like, we are not going to show any expression. Whatever happens, for us, Allah is the judge, and He's going to judge between us and them. So, alhamdulillah, I think, and all these teachings are from these shuhada and from the great leadership that we have, alhamdulillah.
Syed, thank you so much for your time. It was a really wonderful story, an inspirational story. Thank you so much.
And jazakallah for having me.
Inshallah.